How's everybody doing? Tamra Tamu here, bringing you a very impromptu live video. Give me a second because I am trying out a new streaming service. So this is really brand new. Let's see if anybody will come in. I know this is kind of an off time depending on where you're at in the world. It is 12:22 a.m. February 2nd where I'm at. So be interesting to see how many people come through. Let's see. All right, give me 1 second. See, this is just how live goes. You get to see me trying something new in real time. So we have a few things that I want to talk about. And I thought about recording this, doing a recording. But then as I started getting the message that was coming through, I realized it would just be so much easier for me to do it live. I didn't plan on going live this late, but I wanted to get this message out as soon as possible. So now I can't even get my can open. So again, thank you guys for watching, whether you come on live while I'm live or whether you're watching this recording. If you're new here, I am Tamra Tamu. This is the Unleashed Alchemy YouTube channel. Where on this channel we talk about bridging the unseen into the seen. We talk about metaphysics. We talk about being free in your magic. So if all that sounds good to you, you are in the right place. All right, so what I'm going to do is update something here on the live. Give me one second. Let's see. I wasn't even sure what to call this. And sometimes I have realized, if I'm being very, very, very honest, is that I think I spend too much time on the titles of these videos. Titles are important, yes, but I think I spend too much time on them. I wasn't really sure what to call this video, which is one of the reasons why I'm choosing to do it live. All right. So again, if you are new here, I am Tamra Tamu. This is the Unleashed Alchemy YouTube channel, coming to you live at 12:25 a.m. Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. All right. Here we go. So, let's get into today's episode. So, I'm calling this being in secret versus being in the open. Being out in the open. Or I could give it a subtitle of how your open expression is part of your protection. So I'm going to give you a story, give you a conversation that I heard, and then I'm going to break down aspects of this conversation and I'm going to bring it all together. And this is going to be sort of a layered conversation. So just follow along. All right. So let's get into it. So the other day, I heard a very interesting conversation. There were two people that were having a discussion. It was a father, and then it was a young woman that he was talking to. And the father was telling this young woman about his frustration with his child, one of his kids refusing to go to sleep, not going to sleep. When it got to the time for bedtime, the father was saying how he couldn't figure out what was going on with his child. Child didn't want to go to sleep. He couldn't figure out how to get his child to be calm, you know, right before bedtime. The child found all these other things to do. The child was real hyper. He couldn't even get the child to even calm down, to even talk about bedtime. Okay? So the young woman suggested that this father try some aromatherapy. And that squeaking in this chair is bothering me. So, the young woman is saying, well, hey, have you tried, aromatherapy? She started naming all these different fragrances, and she kept mentioning lavender. Now, whether she is a parent herself, she didn't mention that, but you could tell by the way that she was talking that she had some experience, maybe a little bit experience with the use of aromatherapy, and perhaps, again, based on the way that she was talking, that perhaps she had experienced benefits of aromatherapy, specifically using lavender, right? And the way that she was talking, she never said if she had children. I don't know if she has kids. But regardless, she was giving this father advice as if she could relate to what this parent was saying about not being able to calm their child down. So, as the woman is sharing her ideas during this conversation, because, that's what people do, they share their ideas, right? The father blurts out, oh, that sounds like a bunch of witchcraft bullshit. And so the young woman, she kindly bowed out of the conversation. Okay. Now, I had to be honest and say, I don't know if I would have done that, but I wasn't a part of the conversation. Now, I would have said, well, since you can't calm your child down, you may want to try this witchcraft bullshit, because obviously what you're doing or what you have been doing is not working. Now, I also would have stressed that the lavender might help reveal the chaos that is in your home that is causing your child to be up in arms all the time and not settled and not able to sit still and too riled up. Maybe there's some energies going on in your home that need to be settled. Maybe there's some energy in you, parent, that you need to have settled and alchemized because your child is picking up on what you're expressing. But because I was not a part of the conversation, I didn't say anything. But it was very interesting to hear. Now, again, I was not involved in the conversation directly, but I was close enough to where if I was going to offer my thoughts, it wouldn't have been so far-fetched. So I'm sitting here the two people are having really their conversation right out here in front of me. So it almost would have been natural for me to just insert myself into the conversation, but I didn't do that. I could have inquired, well, excuse me, sir, but what do you mean when you say witchcraft bullshit? Let's break those two down. But again, I chose to remain silent and just listen. And so as I listened, that conversation did something for me. So it caused me to think about four things, and these four things are not in order of any type of importance. I'm going to share these four things with you, and then I'm going to talk about them and bring them all together. Again, not necessarily in any type of order, but I'm going to talk about them in a way where it just brings everything together. Okay? And I'm going to share with you what you need to take from the conversation and what I present to you and what you can do with it and apply it to your life. So, the four things are this. It caused me to think about the hidden. It caused me to think about, and the hidden, when you talk about the hidden, there's different layers. So I'm talking about the hidden when it comes to spiritual practitioners, the ones that are hidden, because we see a lot of them, and I put myself in that, of us online, on social media, on platforms like this, that are open about how they practice their spirituality. Their expression of their soul is very open. And then you have those that are unknown that may never open up a social media account. You may never see them on YouTube, but they are just as powerful. And then we could also look at the hidden and the unknown. We can take that internally, where the hidden and the unknown represent those spiritual gifts that have yet to be unfolded for us, that we have yet to tap into because we are afraid of the unknown. But we'll get into that. The second thing was the relevancy of that conversation, of this conversation now, and why that conversation stayed with me. It caused me to think about the third thing is my place in the scheme of things, my spirituality, and how I came to practice and how my soul came here to be expressed, which is getting into identity and destiny. And then the fourth thing was how to be open to the unknown. How to be open to what is hidden. So let's bring all of this together. So if you see me looking down, it's because I have a lot of notes on this, and a lot of the times I am going to be reading from my notes because I do not want to forget anything, and because it's 12:36 a.m. Okay, so let's focus on the hidden and the unknown. So many of us are asking, well, what can I do now? Because of the changes that we see happening in all of the world. What I'm going to present to you is that these changes are propelling us into the unknown that our ego may not be ready for, but our soul and our spirit is not surprised as what is not surprised to what is taking place. Our ego may be shaken, which is where fear and worry comes in, and anger and frustration. But to our soul and to our spirit, nothing that is happening is a surprise. So, focusing on the unknown, the changes that are taking place are unknown because we see things that have been, that are becoming no longer. So, when things feel unfamiliar, that can also open up feelings, like I just said, of fear. And I didn't mention this one: depression, sadness, chaos, feeling worried, and having a feeling of heaviness. Which I will say this last week, I have felt the heaviness of this all of this. It has felt very heavy. Okay? And again, going back to the unknown, we're being propelled into the unknown, which can look dark. And I'm going to say this, that may be triggering for some of you. The dark, we've always equated the dark, and I'm getting ahead of myself, we've always equated the dark with evil. We've created or equated the dark with something bad. But we have to begin to look at the dark as creative force. I'll come back to that. So, we're going to see what we've usually seen when we're facing injustice, when we are facing decisions, looking at decisions that are being made that seem to go against human preservation, that seem to be anti-human preservation, that seem to be anti-freedom. So what we're used to seeing is when injustice like this is taking place, that, for example, in churches, people may be encouraged to pray more. Or if you grew up in church, you know what fasting means. What we're used to seeing during times of injustice, we see boycotts, right? We see people standing outside of businesses that support plans of being anti-human preservation. We see people holding up signs saying in one form or another, don't shop at this bullshit place, because they don't care about people. We see that. We may see other silent protests. We see things being done, like people being encouraged to write letters to their state senators. We may see even marches. That is what we're used to seeing, right? That's familiar to us. These acts, they're valid. They can be effective. Yet at the same time, because we're moving into the unknown, we're being moved into taking different actions that involve more of the spirit realm. What does that look like? What can be different for different people? It can be different for different people depending on whether or not you know your spiritual gifts, and depending on whether or not you know how you came to work in your spiritual bag. So, working in the spirit realm, it can look like rituals. What is the word that's in the middle of spirituality? Ritual. Okay? It can look like spell work. It can look like invocations. It can look like you ingesting herbs to activate the unknown parts of you that show you that you have the keys to the cosmos and the mysteries, the same mysteries that your ancestors were privy to. So the unknown involves how you work in the spirit realm as a physical being. The two go together. It's called integration. So the unknown that I'm talking about involves the physical world and the spiritual. When you allow yourself to be open to the unknown spiritually, you'll forever be guided into ways that allow you to be effective, to be prosperous, not to just survive the unknown in the physical, but to thrive through it, regardless of who is in office, regardless of who is president, regardless of how the physical life looks. That is part of the unknown. When you allow yourself to move into the unknown spiritually, you can view the things that are taking place through the lens of power, through the lens of sovereignty, through the lens of alchemy, not through the lens of fear, not through the lens of worry. When you view what is taking place through a lens of sovereignty, solutions can flow to you easily and quickly. These solutions these are going to be solutions that your ego alone cannot formulate, because the solutions are coming from another realm, that unknown spiritual realm that you have always been connected to. All right? So, let's keep going. So, how does this all relate to you? How can you access the unknown that is within you to navigate the unknown in the physical? Well, first you need to be free from religious programming to step into the unknown. You already know that part of the work that I do is to move people beyond religious programming. I'm going to repeat that. You need to be free from religious programming to step into the unknown. Now, you may have stopped going to church, but that does not mean that you are free from religious dogma. And you may be saying, well, how do I know that I'm free from religious dogma? I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself. And I share with you these questions because these are questions that I had to work through as I was breaking free from that. The first one is, how do you feel in your body? Why is that the most important question? Because that is what dogma in religion attacks first. It attacks your body. Why? Because in your body, in your nervous system, is where your identity lies. That is where your energy lies. So if your energy and your identity can be warped and taken away, everything else is easy. So the first question you want to ask is, how do you feel in your body? How do you respond to challenges in your life? Do you even know what you want your life to honestly look like? Have you allowed yourself to say out loud what you want? Are you intentional in your conversations? How do you treat yourself? What is the conversation that you're having with yourself? What are you saying about yourself? Do you know you? Do you know yourself? Another point that I want to make to that is religion feeds you the same shit over and over and over again. Let me give you an example. Have you ever noticed that none of the stories in Christianity ever change? They do not change. The stories are the same. The messages are the same. One of the messages that stay the same is, if you are suffering, have faith in that God will rescue you. And in some way or another, God will rescue you. That is a known story. It is familiar. And the crazy thing about that is there is a part of human, I won't even say nature, but there is an aspect of us as humans that we will hover around something that is familiar, like bees to a honeycomb. Even when that thing is not even benefiting us, even when we are not prospering from it, even when it is not helpful to our elevation or even helpful to our life in any way, even when there is no expansion from it, even when there is no growth, when there is no profit, we hover around it because that thing, whatever that is what we know. We only hover around it because it is what is familiar. Because as humans, we have told ourselves that what is familiar is equated to safety. We've told ourselves that when something is familiar, then that means that it is safe. That is also an attachment that we need to let go of. That is also a bond that we need to break free from. That is an equation that we need to throw away for it to never return. So let's come back to the now. Let's bring that into the now and what is taking place in the world, okay? So I gave you ways that you can know for sure if you're operating from religious programming. Go back, if once this live is done, go back to the 29-minute point and write those questions down. Self-examination is what we do here. We take accountability for how we feel, how we think, how we act. because that's what a sovereign being does. That's what an alchemist does. That's what a magician does. That's what we do here. So go back, write those questions, take time, and ask yourself those questions. So let's talk about this. How is embracing the unknown going to help you? In the unknown is your expansion. In the unknown is your sovereignty. In the unknown are solutions that you carry. In the unknown is your truest expression, your identity, not the one that you were handed, but your true soul identity is in the unknown. And remember what I said earlier. In the unknown is the dark. That is where opportunity for creation is at the highest optimal level. Isn't a child born, isn't a human developed in the dark for 9 months? We've equated the dark with being bad. We also need to throw that equation out the window as well. So let's focus on, let me read this to you again. The question was, how is embracing the unknown going to help you? In the unknown is your expression, your sovereignty, solutions, and identity. Most important point, in the unknown is the dark, where the opportunity for creation of the new is prime and optimal. Let's focus on identity. So, in relation to your spiritual bag and your spiritual science, in relation to your spiritual bag and your spiritual science, in what ways did you come here to express your magic? Another way you can ask this is, what spiritual gifts are coming online for you? To answer those questions, I'm going to share with you again what I did. I started to pay attention to practices that I was always fascinated by when I was attached to religion and to the church. I started to pay attention to practices outside of religion that I was fascinated by. And I started just to read. I didn't obsess about it. I just allowed the information to come to me. I allowed my intuition to tell me what books to read. I allowed information and the teachings to come into my path, which it did, at the right time. I remembered the things that I loved to do as a child. That is connected to your spiritual gifts. I also tapped into my church experiences with prayer, the activities I did in church. When I tell you that I was in the church, I was in the church. At one point, the last church that I went to, I was considered a leader in the church. I had a key to the church. That was a big deal. I went to the leadership meeting on Sunday mornings. I taught Sunday school class. I was a leader on the praise team. I was in it. Okay? So I had to, and this is a side note, and this is what I've mentioned before on this platform, on my show. When you are deconstructing from religious programming, from religious dogma, when you are breaking free from the mind of someone who has been in a religious cult, that does not mean that you have to discount those church experiences. They were a part and they are a part of your experiences. Not to sound cliche, but they add to your spiritual experiences today. There are aspects of what you did while you were in the church that play a part, that are aspects that you can use and apply to your spiritual science, and that you can apply to your spiritual tool bag. So I tapped into those, all of those experiences. I tapped into how much I read the Bible, because that allowed me to go back to the Bible and see it for what it really is, which is a book of the occult, which is a book of symbolism, which is a book of spells, okay? Pretty much. It is a book of allegory. So, all of that started to unfold for me, okay? And I became focused on energy and the power of words and the power of abundance and the extent to which our bodies represent abundance, the extent to which our bodies represent the power that we just carry on the inside of us. If you pick up an anatomy book, you don't have to be in medicine to know this. You don't have to be a scientist to know this. But if you just pick up an anatomy book, turn to any page, just let it open. What you're seeing there on the inside of you is magic. That you're looking at power. You're looking at energy. So then, when I was guided to do all of that and put all of those puzzle pieces together, then I started to ask the question, which I still do. That is still part of my practice, to ask, why did I come here? What is my true soul's expression? What is the most elevated expression? Who am I beyond the familiar? I always ask myself that question. Who you are beyond the familiar is a part of the unknown. It is a part of your destiny. It is a part of your magic. So, as I started to ask that question, I started having dreams. And listen, when your spiritual signs, when your spiritual gifts are being unfolded before you, I'm sharing you my experiences. You may have completely different experiences. So when I start to read this and I'm going to describe to you what started to happen, if you haven't had any of those, it does not mean that you have done something wrong. I'm just sharing with you my experience, okay? So as I started to ask those questions, I started having dreams of me operating in my spiritual gifts. My intuition was strengthened. The synchronicities that were happening for me became like rapid fire. Downloads and messages were coming through so strong. I had to even set boundaries on how rapid those messages were even coming through. You didn't know that. That's what you can do as a sovereign being. You can put a cap for the moment on how fast messages and downloads are coming to you. Okay? became intentional on listening to my body, feeling into my body, trusting how my body is feeling. I started to really observe my feelings, regardless of where I was, who I was talking to. I observe my own energy. That has now become just a part of my life. Okay? So, all of those things put together, those take a part, all of those things together are instrumental in your spiritual gifts being unfolded for you, the unknown being shown to you. All of that goes together, okay? Another point that I want to make here is, even when you don't fully understand the unknown, even when you don't fully understand what is being revealed to you, that doesn't make you or render you less powerful. Excuse me. You can still be confident in your spirituality and yet not fully understand. Because you now have a knowing that is guiding you through the unknown, which means you've made yourself available to receive those downloads. You've made yourself available to receive a ritual, a new ritual in your dreams that you need to integrate into your life to solve a challenge, to meet a challenge head on. It doesn't have to be in a dream. I always use that as an example. You could be at a stoplight. You've made yourself available to receive an action that will require you to do something that is not familiar, but it will be. Your intuition and your soul knows that that action will bring you complete resolution to a certain challenge. So, when you hug the unknown, when you learn to love the unknown, again, whether you understand it or not, your actions on the surface may look similar to what other people are doing, but it isn't. Because you're taking action through the lens of the unknown. So let me give you an example. You have a business, and your desire is for your business to be in a consistent state of steady flow, growth that is manageable, that's fun, that is not something that's forced. Now, on the surface, you'll do your marketing. You may even sell ads. You may have events, complimentary events, where you'll invite people and then sell something new, whether it's a product or a new service. We see people do that all the time. That's a common, familiar thing. Yet, it isn't familiar because the action that you have taken before that involved you gathering some dirt from a crossroads, a busy intersection, and you doing work for your business in that way behind the scenes. Now that sounds crazy to your ego, but because this is how you came to operate on this plane, this is how your soul came to be expressed. This is how you came to express your spirituality on this physical plane. This is aligned with your soul. So, no, it doesn't make sense to your ego. But that is an example of what I'm talking about in embracing the unknown. Let's talk about something else. When you hug the unknown, you are embracing it. The way you speak about things may sound as if you don't care, or you may sound aloof, or you may sound as if you may speak as if you're not aware of what's taking place. When in actuality, you're very aware, you know exactly what's taking place. You are fully aware, and yet you walk in the identity of a person who brings resolution. Believe it or not, what is taking place right now, to talk in a way where you are the resolution, where you're bringing the resolution, that is going to sound unfamiliar to a lot of people. That is going to sound crazy to a lot of people. Why do I say that? Because a lot of people are speaking in defeat. A lot of people are speaking in loss. And so here you come in your spiritual bag, and you're speaking in resolutions. That is going to be unfamiliar. That is part of stepping into the unknown. Because even while you're speaking in your power and in your sovereignty, at the same time, your ego is saying, no, don't say that. You can't say that. People are going to think you sound crazy. But before you let your mind go, your soul is already speaking for you. Your soul is already expressing itself. Your spirituality is already at the forefront. Before overanalyzation of what you're saying takes place, your soul is already speaking. I'll give you another example. You may write letters, like I mentioned earlier. We're going to see people doing things that are familiar to us in response to fighting injustice. One of those things can be writing letters to senators, calling your state representatives. You can do that because that's familiar. But even before you call anyone, even before you write a letter, even before you put pen to paper, even before you formulate your words, you're charging your words, you're charging your pen, you're charging your paper. You're charging that letter in a way that whomever reads it, whomever reads your letter, whomever touches your letter, whomever you talk to on the phone, whomever has access to what you speak and what you write, they will have unrest until the words of your letter and what you say are fulfilled. See, we don't talk that way because we are still afraid to believe that we have that type of power. And yet we all have always had it. We always have. We were born with it. So those are just a few examples of what getting into your spiritual bag and stepping into the unknown looks like. Now, you don't have to tell anyone that you move in the world like this. You don't have to share with anyone what your practice is. And I'm going to repeat something that I said earlier. On social media, we see practitioners who are open about their practice. They're open about their spiritual practices and how they move. But just know that there are powerful practitioners who will never have an IG. They'll never have a Thread account. They'll never get on TikTok. You will not see them online. And in a sense, they are hidden. And in some cases, rightfully so. We have learned that in centuries past, I'm going to say people were persecuted, murdered, because their use of their power and their oneness with the cosmos and with the ethers and their understanding of that, it was on full display. We can talk about an easy example. If a Jesus or a Yeshua existed, what I believe is that I believe this on two ways. If there was an individual, yes, there was a person named Yahshua. I also believe that Yahshua represented a type of individual. So in both cases, the individual and a type of individual, they walked in their power on full display. And they were happy and bold and confident to tell anyone who came across their paths, you have the same power as I do. And I believe, as the story is told in the Bible, that this is what these group of people or this person was trying to get everybody else to come into the knowing of themselves. And if you go by the story in the Bible, that person was persecuted and killed. And then you have the whole, rose 3 days and all that. No, I'm not dealing with that part. But I use that as an example to show that maybe why some practitioners we will never hear about. We will never know their names. They are hidden, perhaps for that reason. So if you're watching this and you're experiencing fear of accessing the unknown within you, it could be present. If it is keeping your soul from being fully expressed. And why do I say this? Because this was a legit fear of mine in the beginning of my own, you can call it awakening, the first one, okay? I legit felt fear of verbal persecution and physical attack. That was a legit fear of mine, and I had to face that. And I had to be honest that those fears were present. And then I had to ask, well, are these fears really mine? Am I really afraid of that? Is this fear mine? Which leads me back to the conversation I told you about at the start of this show. Many of you are going to hear comments such as, oh, that's that witchcraft bullshit. Many of you are going to get asked questions about your spiritual practice because many are looking for, and I'll cover this in another video, you may get asked that question because many people are attempting to find some protection due to the state of the world. They're trying to find some protection in some religion, in something. So you may get asked. The state of the world may prompt these questions if you haven't already been asked. I will always say, and I've said this before, I will always tell you, you don't have to tell anyone anything because your spirituality is your business. And yet, at the same time, I'm going to present to you this. What if part of your unknown is to share boldly what you practice? What if that is a part of your unknown? What if part of your power comes from being known as a spiritual practitioner? What if part of your protection lies in being seen and known as a practitioner, as an occultist? What if that is part of your expression? So I'm going to share with you something else before I end. Now, I will tell you, in the beginning, that is something that I thought that I had resolved. I thought that I was fully accepting my role as a metaphysical counselor, as a metaphysical teacher, as a spiritual practitioner that participates in rituals and spells. But there was a part of me that wanted to be silent about that expression. The silence was weighing on me. And I thought that I had resolved that completely. But for some reason, especially with the last month, it had been coming up again, where I just wanted to be silent about who I came here to be and how I came here to express my soul. So that is why I'm sharing this with you. So let's review how the unknown is beneficial to you. So let's go back. See, this is why I did this live. I'm so glad I did it this way. So much easier. So we talked about the hidden two different ways. We talked about how this relates to you. We talked about how the hidden is part of your unknown, internally and externally, okay? We talked about how in the unknown is your expansion, your sovereignty, solutions, and your identity, and how we have to look at the dark in a new way with a sovereign lens. The unknown is the dark where the opportunity for creation of the new is prime and optimal. All right? Then I gave you tips on what you can do when you're wanting to really tap into your spiritual gifts. So go back. If you didn't, I probably should have told you at the top of this video to grab pen and paper, but I invite you to watch this again with notes. Take notes because this was heavy on information, but it's information that is going to help you manage and navigate the unknown in the external and the unknown within you, and how to bridge those two together so that you are prospering and so that you are benefiting and so that you are seeing abundance and growth and expansion and transformation in every single part of your life, in whatever the external looks like. Because you get to decide how you're going to come here and exist on this physical plane. Aren't you sovereign? Aren't you God? Aren't you the magician? Aren't you the alchemist? So that's what I wanted to share with you. If you want to work with me one-on-one, go to my link, unleashedalchemy.com, and you can sign up to book a call with me. Also, to get more class information like this and go more in depth, there is my Unleashed Alchemy school, magic school, that is open. It's monthly membership. You can sign up by the month, or you can get a year membership. When you do the year membership, you do get 2 months free. Okay? So check that out. The link is in the description box of this video. Let me know what your takeaways are of this video. Let me know if you have questions, all right? Comment, all right? Share this video. If you are new here, subscribe. Just do all the things. You already know. Subscribe, like, share. Do the things that YouTube likes so that more people will come here and get the information, and so that more of us can be elevated into our destiny, so that more of us can be elevated into our soul's expression. So not only is that going to benefit our lives, benefits the lives of those that we love and care about, and is going to ultimately affect the world in enchanting ways. All right? So thank you for sticking with me. And until next time, cheers.